there's going to be different things that you'd probably need to do depending on what your skin is showing you. But also it always goes back to, let's look at your gut health. Let's look at your hormone balance. Let's look at those things, those triggers like stress. How are you sleeping? All the things that would impact any system in the body are the things that need to be addressed. But with clients, I always start with gut health as the initial part to the puzzle, because it's such a big part of the puzzle.
Welcome back to the Thick Thighs Save Lives podcast. We have an amazing guest on with us today. Sarah Law is on to tell us what our bodies are trying to communicate through our skin, and she is a wealth of knowledge. This is an episode you're probably going to listen to twice. I'm going to need to go back and listen because she had so many truth bombs and tidbits in there that I would like to apply to my life. Hopefully you guys will too. Sarah is a nutrition therapist. She has written nutrition articles for corporate well-being programs, spoken at the Wellness Online Wellbeing Festival, and worked with countless individuals to help them understand how to create a new healthy lifestyle to nourish their bodies and have glowing, healthy complexion. This episode is one of my favorites. Hopefully you guys love it as much as I do. Here's Sarah. Hi, guys, and welcome back to the Thick Thighs Save Lives podcast. I am here with Sarah Law today, who is going to be your skin expert. Hi, Sarah. We're so happy to have you on.
Hello, welcome. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you all today.
I'm really excited to dive into this topic with you because I've done like over 200 podcast episodes, and I have not talked about skin yet.
Oh my goodness, I'm the first. Yay! That's a lot of episodes.
As I was going through this, I was like, wow, it's, a really important part of our body and health, and shows so much of what our body is experiencing on the inside. And I haven't even covered it yet. So I'm so excited for you to come on
today.
So Sarah, can you tell us a little bit about how you got started and what led you to helping so many women create a new healthy lifestyle, and your specialty with helping them have a glowing complexion?
Absolutely. So I started in the kind of health and wellness profession about 15 years ago now. Previous to that, I was actually a professional performer. So I worked in musical theatre and I loved what I did. But I can honestly say I didn't really feel like I was living my purpose a lot of the time. I knew that I had a real big passion for helping other people. And as much as performing was fun and I got to see people be happy, I didn't feel like I was making a huge impact. So I knew that there was another thing that I was called to do. But at that time, I was kind of like, oh, I'm not quite sure what it is. Now, at that time, also, I was experiencing problems with my own skin. My skin was just very dull, very gray. I had one of those awful antibiotic roll-on things that the doctors prescribe for acne. And I had no idea really about the impact that nutrition and gut health had on the skin. So I thought at the time I was healthy. I was a performer and, I thought I'm very active. I lead a healthy life. But looking back now, I realize actually how wrong I had it most of the time. I was the queen of low fat everything. So I didn't touch any fat, but I would eat loads of artificial sweeteners and processed foods and things, thinking that was all good because there was no fat in it, and wondered why my skin was suffering. So at that point, I then started working with a nutrition and skincare company because I was at a point in my performing career, I was thinking, right, I'm getting a bit older. There's more to life. There's more things I want to do. And so I started working alongside a brand. And at that point, I started going on lots of kind of product training sessions and really learning about skincare and how the skin functions, but also looking at it from an inside perspective. And I was just like, wow, this just blew my mind. Like just learning blew my mind. And I got to learn from some really incredible women in the holistic health and wellness world. And I was just like, I want to be one of those women. I want to be one of those women that can stand there and talk about this and make a real impact on other people's lives, because I know what it's like to not feel comfortable in my own skin and to be struggling and going to the doctors and then just being prescribed with, antibiotics and roll-on creams that bleach everything but aren't actually getting to the root of the issue. So I decided to go and study naturopathic nutrition at that point. I went to a college, studied for 4 years alongside performing still, and learned so much that just, like I said, blew my mind and really made me want to be a never-ending student of the body, because it just showed me how everything is connected. And from then onwards, it was like I knew that there were certain things that I was really passionate about helping people with my nutrition work, and skin health was one of them. I just love helping women feel confident in themselves.
Yeah, first of all, that's amazing because I love to talk to people who have found their purpose through just like life experience where they're like,
Mm,
so this impacted me in a really big way. And then as soon as I started learning about it, I was like, I have to tell everyone. I have to
yeah,
share this with everyone because it's so incredibly important. And when you were talking about like low fat everything, that really took me back because I was there too.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I didn't even realize how much like, I had looked back at pictures and I realized how much my skin has changed, but it wasn't purposeful in that way. I just know that I was, like, low fat everything, like, it was just, like I was having a bunch of artificial sweeteners, but, like, just kind of doing, the typical, like, turkey bacon and, like,
yeah, yeah.
the typical
That,
diet thing, and I
that
had a
free
ton of
cheese.
yeah, and, like, a ton of problems with my skin, and then that all really subsided when I changed my diet and
Yeah.
just started, doing a whole bunch of different things, and you mentioned getting, your degree in neuropathic, nutrition. Can you just tell our listeners, like, what is that?
Yeah, so naturopathic nutritional therapy is looking at a person as a whole and really kind of piecing the puzzle together, knowing that there are so many pieces of the body puzzle, but they all work together. So, for example, it's looking at it from a very holistic approach of knowing that every single part of the body needs to be looked at. You can't just specialize in one thing, really, because it's always coming from somewhere else. So the problem, I think, with a lot of mainstream medicine is that if we have a problem with our skin, we go to a dermatologist. If we have a problem with this part of the body, we go to a specialist for that part of the body. And that just cuts off this whole holistic approach of thinking, well, actually, that's just a reflection of something else going wrong in the body. So the skin is a reflection of what's going on inside. It's not just this thing that functions on its own and creates problems on its own. It's coming from different places, and we have to look in and find the root causes. So naturopathic nutritional therapy is very much about finding the root causes, and then piecing the puzzle together using lots of different modalities, being maybe that's Chinese medicine, herbal medicine, nutrition, all different types of therapies coming together to be able to really support the whole system.
That was a beautiful answer. Thank you so much for not only the work you do there, but just that answer because it's so interesting how we just go for one like, it's all working together, right? Like, my degrees are all in mental health, so I'm a mental health clinician, and my biggest issue with trying to treat people in more of a traditional sense with mental health was that we acted like our head was cut off from the rest of our bodies. That,
This
like,
is it.
how yeah, like, how we were interacting with the environment, how we were treating our bodies, how we were experiencing daily life was just, like, completely different from our mental health, and I couldn't treat a whole person under those conditions.
Yeah,
And it was just, like, crazy to me because I was like, "This is not I can't be effective here." That's where I left the field. I was like, "I cannot be effective here until I can talk to a whole person." Until when we look at why we're feeling so anxious, we can look at our diet, and we can
yeah,
look at some of our sleep patterns, and not just look at what we can be prescribed for, anxiety and not address any sleep issues. You know what I mean? Like, it's just so important that in this field we just look at a whole person.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and like every single little part of it plays a role. So, like you were saying, with mental health, it's like how often would you go to the doctors with anxiety and then say, "Well, let's look at your gut." It just doesn't happen, and it should.
Absolutely, it should. So that's a great segue into like how does our diet and nutrition affect the way our skin looks and ages?
So it all comes down really to our gut health, and our hormones have a massive impact on our skin as well, which many females probably experience. On a monthly basis, we may notice differences in our skin depending on our cycles and what's happening with our hormones. So hormones play a big role, but also the gut has a big role in hormone health. So what I talk to people a lot about is their gut health because it is really the hub of everything. It's responsible for so many things, and it makes so much sense when you really think about it. So when we put food into our bodies and it goes down into our gut, and our bacteria that are in our gut, I always say to people, it's a bit like a garden, your gut. So in a beautiful garden, you have lots of different um, diverse species of flowers, and you may have a few weeds that lurk around the edges, but there shouldn't be loads of weeds, because if you do have loads of weeds and you just tend to the weeds and you don't look after the flowers, then your garden looks horrific. So our gut is very similar. We have this thing called a microbiome within our gut, which is responsible for so much. So within the microbiome, that is kind of like the beautiful diverse species of flowers, all these different types of bacteria that are absolutely necessary for human health. They synthesize vitamins and minerals. They help us break down our food. They help us regulate our blood sugar. They help us detox hormones out of the body that have been used. They help us remove toxins from the body. They do so many different things. So we need to be tending to them and making sure they're in balance to make sure that every single part of our body functions. But what's really interesting is the microbiome within our gut actually speaks to the microbiome on our skin. So we have this same kind of bacterial balance on our skin, because our skin is a massive, well, it's our biggest organ, the biggest organ of the entire body. And so they communicate. There's the gut skin axis where these microbiome, which is so weird, these bacteria are talking to each other. So whatever's going on in the gut starts to show on the skin. And I truly believe that our bodies do that for a reason. I always say to people, when things are going on with your skin, it's actually a really good thing. I know it can feel horrible, but it's your body whispering to you, saying something is going on inside that needs addressing. And if you don't listen to the whispers, your body will start to scream. So you want to do something whilst it's whispering rather than when it starts screaming. So making sure that our microbiome is, in a really good balance can massively impact the skin. What we want to make sure of as well is that we're breaking down our food sufficiently, because food is fuel and food is information and food is nutrition. So food, basically, once it's broken down and we take the vitamins and minerals from it, they are being absorbed through the gut lining into the bloodstream, delivered to all the necessary parts of the body. So the skin being one of them. The skin needs vitamins, it needs minerals to function. It needs vitamin C so that we can have collagen. It needs vitamin A to be healthy and to have the right cell turnover rate. So if we're not getting that from our food, because we're not breaking down our food properly, because we're either not eating the right foods, or because our gut just isn't functioning properly, because we're stressed and the digestion is shut down, or because there's inflammation going on, then those nutrients are basically not being absorbed through the gut lining into the bloodstream to be delivered to the skin. So you can see why really the skin can start to really suffer. It's not being fed. It's not getting what it needs to look healthy and be glowing.
That is amazing. And I didn't know that our gut had such a direct line to our skin.
Yeah.
But is so insightful as to why we get those messages from our body, and like it is talking to us. Like our body is trying to like right on the surface, trying to be like something is wrong here.
Yeah.
And but we just ignore it until it's screaming, and that's really like Western medicine that's best.
Yeah, absolutely. I always say to people, if you had a magnifying glass and you could see into your body and everything that was actually happening on a daily basis, dependent on what food you're eating, what you're drinking, what supplements you're taking, you'd be astounded. And you'd probably make different decisions about a lot of the foods and you're eating and the supplements that you're taking and the things that you're doing. But the unfortunate thing is we can't see inside. So we often ignore a lot of what's going on and kind of bury our heads in the sand going, it's fine. That's normal to have spots. It's normal to have a bit of dull gray skin, when actually it's not. It's not normal. It shouldn't be normal.
Yeah, yeah, that's amazing. And you touched on this a little bit, but what role does hormones play and stress play in how our skin looks?
Oh, so
This
big,
is a big
so
one.
unbelievably big. So a kind of example of that is estrogen, which is obviously one of our female hormones that men also have as well. Very important for men to have estrogen, just as it is for women, but in different ratios. Is really, really important for hydration of the skin, for suppleness of the skin, for collagen production. So as we start to age and we start to go through the menopause, our skin can really shift a lot. And that's why women really notice in as they start to go through the menopause, like they age very quickly. And it's because in the first 5 years of the menopause, the production of collagen within the skin slows down by about 30%, which is a huge amount. And collagen is the thing, it's the matrix of the skin. I always say to people, it's like the tent poles to a tent canvas. So if you haven't got the tent poles in a canvas, you've got a very saggy canvas. So it's like the structure that keeps our skin youthful, springy, glowing. And when that starts to diminish, then our skin starts to suffer. So estrogen, is very important for collagen production. We then have things like androgens, which are kind of more male hormones that can increase sebum production in the skin. So again, what you might find is women who have got, say, polycystic ovary syndrome, who are producing more androgens, then they should start to notice that they have acne problems because there's more sebum being produced in the skin. That sebum is then blocking the pores, and then that's going to cause breakouts. So hormones really play a massive role, but stress plays a role in everything, doesn't it? Absolutely everything that could possibly go wrong in the body. Most of it is down to stress. So when we are under a huge amount of stress, basically our digestion shuts down. So our bodies are so unbelievably intricate and so clever. And when we have a lot of stress, our bodies basically think that there's a threat to our survival and that they need to run from danger. So this has really come from the dark ages. Our physiology actually hasn't changed a huge amount over a very long period of time. So our body thinks, right, there's a saber-toothed tiger. I need to run away from it. So digestion right now is really not important. I don't need to be sitting here digesting a meal. I need to be using all of that energy to run. So all of the energy that would be used for digestion, and digestion is a very energy intense process, will instead be used to go to the muscles so that you've got the energy and the oomph to run away from danger. So basically digestion just shuts down. So when your digestion shuts down, if you're eating food, even if it's all the good stuff, you're putting it in, but it's not being broken down properly because there's no digestive juices, your gastric juices like your stomach acid lower, your digestive enzyme production lowers because they're not important at that point. They're not a priority to your body because they're not going to help you survive. So then you've got all this food just sitting in your gut, not being digested properly, which makes you feel rubbish. But also it starts to ferment in the gut, which can feed, different bacteria that don't necessarily need to be fed. And then that can cause a lot of inflammation. And then that's going to have a massive impact on the skin, because whenever we've got inflammation going on, whenever we've got any kind of, fermentation in the gut, that can massively impact the skin as well. On top of that, what it can start to do is really play havoc with our gut lining. So our gut lining, I love an analogy. So here's an analogy of this one, a bit of a weird one. But think of like a trash can, a dustbin bag, we call them in the UK, where you put all your rubbish in and it stays within that bin bag. But if you put a bit of glass in there, it will poke a hole out of the side, and then all your bin juice will flow out, which is gross. No one wants bin juice all over their floor. So with your gut lining, if you're putting foods in that are causing damage to the gut lining, then undigested proteins have the capability of escaping through the gut lining. The majority of our immune system is actually located in the gut lining for very good reason, because there shouldn't be undigested proteins and endotoxins and things flowing through the gut lining into the bloodstream, because that's a mayday situation for the body. These foreign bodies being able to enter our bodies essentially, because in essence, the gut is actually part of the outside world, because there's it's encased in a sac essentially. So if things are escaping through the gut lining, they're stimulating the immune system, because most of it is located there. The immune system is going, mayday, that should not be coming through my gut lining. I'm going to form an attack against it. The immune system goes on to red alert, goes on to overdrive, and that can cause a lot of kind of inflammation within the body, because you've got all these different immune cells that are just overreactive. What can also happen at that point is that some of the undigested proteins that are escaping through the gut lining can look very similar to our own body cells. So this is called molecular mimicry. It's really hard to say, molecular mimicry. But basically, your body attacks that undigested protein, sees a cell in your body that looks very similar, and attacks that as well. And this is where autoimmune type conditions come from. And things like eczema, psoriasis, they all have an element of autoimmunity attached to them. So if you can get the gut lining in a good place, you can really reduce a lot of symptoms that people with those kinds of autoimmune conditions can have. The problem with stress is it really impacts the gut lining. But not only does it have the ability to kind of pull the gap junctions of the cells apart so the undigested proteins can go through, it also makes the cells themselves permeable, so that things can actually escape through the cell. So even if the cells of the gut lining haven't come apart, there's not holes in the bin bag, the cells themselves are like permeable. So everything's flowing through into the bloodstream and then causing this massive immune response, which is going to have a massive impact on the skin and the rest of the body.
Wow, that was incredibly insightful. I'm even going to need to listen to that again. I'm
All
sure
the listeners are like, oh.
I'm sure many of our listeners will, but like I didn't anticipate thinking of so many different people that I know that have struggled with some autoimmune things
Mm,
and have really like demonstrated some of those symptoms. And then when stress is introduced, it wreaks havoc on their body. And
yeah,
it could even just be, types of stress that I would be like, okay, like, like I understand your stress, but like your body is responding in this way. Like, do you need to
yeah.
go work out? Because that's my thing. But no, it's actually like causing havoc on their body. And it just makes so much more sense the way that you explained that. Um,
Yeah.
and just like how it starts attacking itself.
Yeah, and that's it. It's like your body is doing what it's meant to do. That I think when you've got autoimmunity, which I have as well, I had it a thyroid autoimmune condition triggered by COVID, unfortunately. But it really again was a big learning curve for me, really understanding even more about autoimmunity, how it affects the body, what you need to do to kind of put things into remission and to dial down symptoms. And I knew that gut health was massive and would play a massive role in that, and really making sure that my gut lining was in good tact. So anyone with any kind of autoimmune conditions going on, gut health, I would say, is even more important than for the regular human being.
Yeah, yeah, that's incredibly insightful. The next thing I wanted to talk to you about was um our skin is showing some different signs. A lot of people are, they have different signs of like what their skin is telling them. Maybe it's dry patches, breakouts, itchy skin, wrinkles all of a sudden. How should we be kind of treating these things? And if the symptoms look different as opposed to like dry skin or oily skin, should we be treating them in a different way?
Yes and no. So, in a way, yes, there's going to be different things that you'd probably need to do depending on what your skin is showing you. But also, it always goes back to let's look at your gut health, let's look at your hormone balance, let's look at those things, those triggers like stress. How are you sleeping? All the things that would impact any system in the body are the things that need to be addressed. But I always, with clients, I always start with gut health as the initial part to the puzzle, because it's such a big part of the puzzle. And then from there, once we've got the gut in a good place and we're making sure people are eating the right foods, then we can start to layer on all the other parts. Again, looking at different scenarios, there's different foods as well that can support different things. So, for example, if someone's got really dry skin, then I'm always talking to them about healthy fats. Are they eating enough good healthy fats that are supporting their skin? If someone's got loads of inflammation going on, what inflammatory foods are they eating? Are they eating loads of refined vegetable oils and processed foods and artificial sweeteners? If they're experiencing breakouts, what is it that's causing their hormones to be out of balance? Can we look at that? And then can we link that back to the gut? And is it linked to their blood sugar? Because blood sugar will have a massive impact on the skin as well, and even with aging. So if someone's kind of experiencing a lot of wrinkles all of a sudden, they're like, why do I suddenly look so much older? A lot of that can be to do with their blood sugar regulation as well, because when we have blood sugar that's very dysregulated, a lot of the time we'll have too much sugar in the bloodstream, and that can then form something called advanced glycation end products. They're called AGEs for short, which is really apt because what they do is they age the body. They cross-link with the proteins, the collagen and elastin proteins in the skin, and cause them to stiffen up and go really rigid when they should be nice and springy. So that basically is called the sugar sag. When you've got too much sugar in the bloodstream, it forms these advanced glycation end products. They stick to the collagen and elastin in the skin and cause them to go stiff and make your skin wrinkly and saggy. So there's so many different scenarios, and absolutely they need a tailored approach depending on what's going on. But there's kind of universal principles that I believe apply to pretty much everyone when they're thinking about their skin health.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's amazing. Are there any like are there any specific foods that you suggest that for all of us would support our gut health?
Most of the time, yes. I mean, there's obviously always going to be that individual kind of element to every single person, because although we're all made of the same stuff, we're all slightly different. We're genetically different. We've got a very unique microbiome. So your gut microbiome is very much like a fingerprint. Everyone's is slightly different, but there are certain species of bacteria that we all need. And there's certain things that feed those bacteria. So pretty much for everyone, what I always say to them is you need polyphenols. So polyphenols come from like different fruits and veggies, bright colored things, and they're really good at feeding the gut bacteria. Fiber as well is amazing for feeding your good gut bacteria, especially prebiotic fibers. They are basically like the food for our bacteria in our gut, our good bacteria. So by feeding them, they survive. They thrive in the gut, and just like humans, they need feeding. So those things are really, really important. Also, making sure that you are getting enough protein, because protein is the building block of every single cell in the body. And for most women, I find they just don't eat enough. Like when I sit down and do consultations with people and I'm like, right, tell me what your diet's like. And I'm like, where's the protein? Like literally there's about 20 grams. And for me, that's so bizarre because I'm also a pro bikini athlete. And I'm probably kind of more the other way where I eat a lot of protein to, have a lean toned body. So I love protein, but I just find that so many women undereat on protein because I actually don't even know why. I don't know whether they think it's going to make them bulky or whether they think they don't need it. I just don't know what it is, but it's vital for everything. It's vital for your gut lining. It's vital for your skin health. It's just vital for everything.
Yeah, it's amazing because no matter what subject I'm talking about when it comes to health and nutrition and supporting our bodies, protein is always one that comes up. And as I talk to women, as we really break it down with like it can come in many ways. Like I don't think I'm eating enough, I'm hungry all the time, I'm not sleeping well. I seem to be eating constantly, but I'm still hungry. And then I'm looking at like, well, what are you actually eating? And the protein, which is a slower digestion, keeping you fuller for longer, you are missing that key component and then wondering why you're hungry all the time because you're not
Yeah.
feeding your body what it's actually craving. And it's amazing to me because, like, working with men, they're really not under eating protein as much, but women
No.
specifically are very much under eating protein. And when you say like something like 20 grams, I'm like, in one meal?
Yeah, exactly. I'm the same. I'm like, I could easily eat 40 grams in one meal. So it's just, yeah, absolutely that. And like you said, it's so true. Men are fine. They seem to eat tons of protein. Then women are just the complete opposite. And so I'm like, well, where is your substance? Where are the things that are going to be the building blocks of your body?
Yeah, well, I mean, the diet industry has really like plagued women with eat less, eat,
Yeah.
like low fat things, and then trying to like skirt all of these ways around getting like good substance, like good food.
Yeah.
So like it makes sense that like you would be missing some of that like more like hearty, like you know what I mean, like that type of
Yeah.
protein. But then I'm like, as women get older, so I want to talk about menopause a little bit because I know you have some great knowledge around that. You need more protein. If you're entering this phase of your life, like you need more
Yeah.
protein, and a lot of women tend to eat less. And I had to like have a hard stop with my mom on
Yeah.
this one because I was like, "How much protein are you eating right now? And are you expecting to have some muscle gains and have energy?" And she has some grandkids and wants to be able to have energy, look and feel great. And I was like, well, here's the thing. If this is the protein that we're eating, like you're not lifting weights on that. And she's a good
Yeah.
lifter. So can we talk specifically about menopause for women who are in that phase of their life and a little bit with like what's happening with their skin at this time and what can they do?
Yeah, absolutely. So true. Like I think the problem when women go through the menopause is their body goes through chaos. Hormonal. It's like going through puberty all over again, but 10 times worse. Hormones can be all over the place, and especially estrogen. So during menopause, what often happens is progesterone declines at quite an even rate, but estrogen does this roller coaster where some days it's up, some days it's down, some days it's up, some days it's down. And that can cause a lot of different symptoms in the body and a lot of stress in the body because the body's just going, what on earth is going on? And that obviously is going to impact so many different parts of the body. It impacts the brain, it impacts our weight, where we hold weight. It impacts our skin, and some women start to notice that they get skin like a spotty teenager again. Other women just notice that they start to age really quickly, and I think the reason a lot of women start under eating during menopause is because they gain weight, because that lack of estrogen can really cause weight gain and the hormones just being completely out of balance. So the traditional thing is, well, eat less and move more. That's what women are told. And I'm just like, it kills me when I see that as the advice, because I'm like, that's not the answer. It's, most women have probably tried that and it's not worked and for a reason. The more we're under eating and overtraining, the more we're stressing our bodies out. And when we stress our bodies out and we're causing that rising cortisol, all we're doing is messing our hormones up even more, messing our blood sugar up, causing our progesterone to absolutely crash in relation to our estrogen. And that's going to cause our bodies to just cling on even more. So like you said, it's not about eating less, it's about eating right as you go through the menopause and fueling your body with the right foods that nourish it, that nurture it, that let it know that it's safe and start to balance things out a bit more. And protein is one of those things. Protein is going to help keep the blood sugar balanced, keep you satiated, make sure you've got the building blocks for your muscles. And we don't want to experience loads of muscle wastage, which is what we start to notice as we start to age. We want to keep as much muscle as we physically can. And that doesn't mean that you're going to end up looking like Arnie. And I think that's so many women's biggest fear, is that they're going to go to the gym and they're going to have a protein smoothie and they're going to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. And I'm like, trust me, as a pro bikini athlete, I worked blooming hard to build a bum. Like, I was in that gym a lot, working really hard to get the muscle that I needed, and I was not big. So there is no way you're going to look like Arnie. You just need to know that to have a lean, toned, healthy body, you need the protein and you need to do some strength training for sure. So with skin issues that women might be experiencing, like I mentioned earlier, they really need to support collagen production, because collagen production declines rapidly in the first 5 years. So we want to keep that collagen production as high as we physically can. And that can come from diet and external sources. So we can start to look at supplementation to support collagen production. We can look at obviously eating the right foods to support collagen production. And we can look at skincare that can support collagen production too. It's like a trifecta, I always like to call it, making sure that you've got all the pieces of the puzzle in place. So vitamin C is absolutely vital for collagen production. So making sure you've got a good amount of vitamin C in your diet, supplementing with whole food sources of vitamin C can be great, and then adding it into your skincare routine in a stabilized oil-based version is the best way to make sure that you're supporting collagen production. With regards to skincare, there's so many ingredients I could talk about. I mean, I could literally talk about ingredients all day, every day in skincare. But I always say to people as well, don't look for the quick fix. You can't out-cream a bad diet. And I think the problem in today's society is people want instant gratification. They want instant results. So they'll buy the creams and the lotions and the potions, but they won't change the diet because it takes longer. And also there's so much emotional attachment to food. So, the amount of people I speak to, and I'm talking to them about their skin health, and they're like, right, what cream should I use? What supplements should I take? And I'm like, well, you can use this, this, and this. They're really going to help, but let me look at your diet. And I'll tell them what changes they need to make to their diet. And they're like, oh, okay, let me just buy the skincare. And I'm like, okay, you can, but trust me, you're missing the biggest part of the puzzle that's going to support you the most, especially during that phase of life.
You know what? This is a common theme that's come out with almost every one of my guests that I've been like, this is
Really?
amazing information, is that like this stuff is not going to happen overnight. None of these are quick fixes, and
No.
they really can't be when it's looking at your body and sustainable changes that can last you through the rest of your life. That's not going to be a crash diet. That's not going to be this like thing that's going to happen overnight. It really is just a consistent over a period of time that we can make these smaller changes, where we can
Yeah.
make changes to our diet and the way we move and the way we're treating our skin, or even just listening to the feedback that we're getting from our bodies. And it's a long process. It's not in this world of like instant gratification where it's going to show up at your door and then all of a sudden you're going to have amazing skin. No, that change starts
Mm.
from the inside out. And it's just such an important thing. Every time I have a guest, I'm like, this is the thing. Guys, we have
Yeah.
to really get on board with the fact that like if you're going to make these changes and they're going to be so worth it, it's going to take some time.
Yeah, it's going to take time and it's going to take effort, because it's changing habits. It's changing things you may have done your entire life and realizing that actually some of those things haven't been serving you and you now need to change them. And like I said at the beginning, our body whispers before it screams. So a lot of the time we just kind of keep going and keep going thinking, I'm fine, I don't really need to change that. And then it's like your body will at some point really start screaming and telling you, okay, now's the time to change. So I just think, why not do it sooner? Why not do it before your body gets to that point? Get into the good habits, get into the good routines that are going to serve you for a lifetime, and live in a body that's healthy and happy for as long as humanly possible. And that's what really upsets me sometimes. Like when I'm on TikTok, I feel like an old granny on TikTok. It's hilarious. But some of the women on there who are like, oh, well, that's it. I'm too old for that now. Menopause, it's all over. And I'm like, what? Absolutely not. You're like 45, 50. That you might not even be halfway through your life if you treat your
A
body with
long time
respect.
to go.
Yeah, and I see women who are in their 70s who look incredible, who have the most unbelievable physiques, beautiful skin, because they're just doing the daily habits. They're doing the right things consistently over time.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's incredible too, and just, like, wherever you are, like, it's never too late. The body's incredibly adaptable, and because, like,
Yeah,
as you if like, you can be like, "Oh, I've had these really detrimental habits that have not been serving me for a very long time, and I can see the results of that." However, the body is amazing, and as we
yeah.
start to make these adjustments regardless of your age, you're going to see the impacts.
Yeah, totally. It's so true. It's just so interesting when people say that. They're like, oh, just accept it. It's part of aging. And I'm like, no, you shouldn't have to accept that. You shouldn't have to accept having aches and pains and feeling uncomfortable in your body and not being happy with your skin. Of course, I understand we're not going to look like we did at 20, but that doesn't mean that we have to just give up and go, well, that's life. That's it now.
Yeah. And you touched on products a little bit. Is there like do I need to have a 6 to 12 step skin routine every day?
Totally dependent on what you want. Now, I have to say, my skincare regime is quite extensive. It never used to be. I used to be like the baby wipe and any cream that said anti-aging because I really didn't understand. And also because I just kind of thought, well, everything's the same. Marketing is clever. They all say the same thing and they probably all do the same thing, no matter how much or how little I spend. And it wasn't actually until I really educated myself on skincare and ingredients that I was like, actually, no, they're not all the same. But yes, I was right. In some respects, marketing is very clever. And you may be paying a fortune for a cream that is actually no better than something that might be, a few dollars because they just market it in the right way. So it's about really understanding the quality of the ingredients, the processes they go through, whether they've got lots of toxins and things in that aren't serving the body. But it doesn't mean you have to have, a really extensive regime. I think there's some key parts that can make a really big difference. So I always say to people, like a really good cleanser, of course, you need to wash your face anyway. So why not get a great cleanser? A really good serum, which is like feeding your skin with breakfast, lunch, and dinner. If you've got a good one, it should be packed with antioxidants. It might have some peptides in there as well, which can really support collagen production. A day cream and a night cream, and then an eye cream are the kind of main ones that I would recommend for people. But if they want to then add, other bits in like a toner or a retinol product or something, then they can do that too. But they're the kind of basics.
That's great. I forgot about the eye cream. I have to add that.
Yes. And there's two camps on this. Some people are like, well, why don't, you can just use your normal skincare on your eyes, because a lot of people believe that, say, an eye cream is the same ingredients, but just watered down. However, it shouldn't be that way. It should be very specific to the eye area because the eyes are so fine. The skin here is 7 times finer than anywhere on the body. So if you just get your regular day cream and you shove it all around your eyes, you're just overloading your eyes with products that are too heavy. And that's going to cause bags and puffiness, and that's going to stretch the skin and then cause wrinkles, which is the one thing you're trying to counteract. So I'm a big believer in using the right products for the right parts of your face and body.
I mean, that makes complete sense. I tend to like just avoid my eye area anyway because I'm like, well, I don't know. Sometimes it burns a little bit. I'm going to sleep. Like, I don't want to put
Yeah,
anything
yeah,
over there. And then I'm like, I didn't even consider that I should have a different product for that area because I'm just
yeah.
avoiding it in general.
Absolutely. And again, there's the kind of two camps of, well, I'd rather put nothing on my skin because my skin needs to breathe. And then there's the other camp of people who are like, no, I need all the nourishment and all the right ingredients. And I'm kind of a bit of both. I'm like, absolutely. Sometimes it's better to put nothing on than some of the products people are using because some of the ingredients in there are really occlusive. They're blocking the skin from breathing properly. They're very chemically based, which is not serving the skin or the body because they have the ability to, absorb through the skin and act as endocrine disruptors, which we absolutely don't want to be doing. So in some respects, yes, that's more beneficial than what some people are using. But if you use the right products with the right ingredients that don't have the chemicals but are producing results with the right kinds of things, then absolutely, using them to nourish the skin and help the skin function as it should can be an absolute game changer in many ways.
Yeah, that's incredible. I wanna ask you too, just for our listeners, what are two things that they might be able to do or implement today that could improve the health of their skin?
Okay. Number one, I would say make sure you're hydrated. So I think it's such a simple thing, but something that's so overlooked quite often is just drinking enough water. Your skin needs hydration from the inside out. So making sure that you're hydrated will definitely make an impact on your skin. If you think about, let's say you've been on a wild night out. I mean, I can't remember the last time I went on a wild night out, but if you've been out and you've been drinking lots of alcohol, which completely dehydrates your body, you wake up the next morning and you look 10 years old. You're like, oh my goodness, my skin looks so old, wrinkly and dry. It's because it's so dehydrated. So you want to rehydrate all the time. Make sure you're drinking enough water and getting enough good oils into your diet to support your skin. So that would be tip number one. And tip number two would be, what shall I say? I would say to make sure that you are eating enough protein, like I said earlier. Just those two things as a starting point will make a difference. And then obviously you can just add on to that, making sure you're eating whole foods and more than processed foods.
Yeah, that's awesome. I meant to say too, as you had talked about women who were in a menopause phase of their life, and just they're getting so much feedback, especially from male trainers. They get me the most. Um,
Yeah,
Worked
tell me
up
about
because
it.
they continue to push this, like, we'll just eat less and move more. And I'm like, do you see who you're talking to? Like, do
This is
you,
it.
the women that you're telling this to, and then just being like, well, if you're not seeing the results that you should be seeing, then you must not be eating exactly what I told you to. You must
Yeah,
be
you're
sneaking.
cheating.
You're cheating. You must be sneaking some things out there and completely ignoring the fact that their body is going through havoc, as in
Yeah,
chaos. And then on top of that, you're creating another stressor for them
yeah,
to not only count everything, but all reduce what they're eating. And they're likely going to reduce the protein that they're eating. So it's
yeah.
working in the complete opposite direction of what you want it to. And I'm just like, I
Absolutely.
just want to just jump in that space and be like, just stop talking. Listen,
Yeah, me too.
Sarah,
I'm like,
stop talking.
yeah, it's like, unless you understand the female body and that it's we're not little men. We are not little men. We need a very different approach, especially at that phase of life. So you can't just treat everyone, in the same way. And also it makes women feel really guilty and ashamed. Like, I'm cheating my diet. I'm not doing enough. I'm not good at it. All of that mental side of it is even more stress that women at that point in life do not need.
They really don't, and it's so counterproductive, and it keeps me going.
Yeah,
Um,
me too.
Sarah, this has been incredible for me. I know that I'm gonna have to listen back to it again. Many of our listeners are going to have to listen back to this, but I do want to let them know where they can hear more from you because there's no way that we could even touch on the knowledge that you have in one podcast. So where can they find you? Where can they hear more from you?
Yes. So the main places I hang out are Instagram. Spend a lot of time on Instagram. So I'm at Sarah Law UK on Instagram. I'm also on TikTok. So I share a lot more kind of menopause stuff on TikTok. And again, I'm at Sarah Law UK. They're the main places. I do have a website as well, but all of my links are in my bios on my social media profiles.
That's perfect. We're also going to link them in the show notes just so our listeners, our ladies, can have easier access to you so that you can find Sarah and hear more from you because I know you guys will want to. And thank you so much for coming on. This has been incredibly insightful.
You are so welcome. If anyone also is interested, I have some freebies on my website. So there is a free webinar which is all about eat your way to glowing healthy skin, and a couple of like great skin guides and things like that that are all free to download. So if anyone's interested in those, they can go and check them out on my website.
I definitely am. I haven't done a season episode yet, and I'm so glad that I did or that we did because this was perfect. This was so insightful and covered so much of what our body is going through, Sarah. So thank you so much, and I'll definitely check that webinar out, and I'm sure our ladies will too.
Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure being with you. Thank you for having me on.